He warned the world. He sang of prophecy, struggle, and unity. His voice was a weapon, his words a revolution. Then, suddenly he was gone. Joseph Hill built a legacy so powerful that even death couldn't silence it. But what really happened in his final days? Was it fate? Was it something more? And how does his voice still echo across the world today? Stay tuned, because this story is bigger than music. His story begins in Linstead, Jamaica, where he was born on January 22nd, 1949, into a world that was both beautiful and burdened with struggle. His early years were marked by the rhythms of a traditional Christian household, where hymns filled the air and faith was a foundation that could not be shaken. But beyond the walls of his childhood home, Jamaica was alive with change. The streets pulsed with a different kind of music, one that spoke to the realities of the people, a sound that would eventually take him far beyond the small town where he was raised. Music found him early. It started in church, where his voice, even as a child, carried a depth that set him apart. There was something raw, something untamed about the way he sang. He wasn't merely performing. He was channeling something greater. He felt the Spirit move through him, felt the energy of the congregation responding to every note. It was there, standing in front of those wooden pews, that he first realized the power of song. But outside the sanctuary, a different world awaited. The streets of Jamaica were alive with sound systems, the lifeblood of a new cultural revolution. Massive speakers lined the roads, sending waves of bass-heavy beats into the night. It was a world of rhythm and rebellion, and it called to him louder than any sermon. As the 1960s dawned, Hill found himself drawn deeper into this world, immersing himself in Jamaica's vibrant music scene. The island was on fire with creativity, its people using music to speak truth to power, to challenge the status quo, to uplift those who had been silenced. He had always believed in something greater than himself, but now he had found his true purpose. It was not enough to sing. He had to say something. He had to mean something. He had to create music that would shake the foundations of a world that too often ignored the voices of the oppressed. He started small. Like many of his peers, he worked his way through the ranks, playing percussion for the Soul Defenders, a group that recorded at the legendary Studio One under the guidance of Coxsone Dodd. The experience was invaluable. In those dimly lit studios, surrounded by some of the finest musicians of his generation, he learned the discipline of sound, the meticulous crafting of rhythm and melody. He saw how a song could be built from the ground up, how every note carried weight, how every beat had the power to move bodies and minds alike. But he was not content to be in the background. His voice was too powerful, his vision too grand to remain a supporting act. He needed more. In 1976, at a time when Jamaica was on the edge of political and social upheaval, Joseph Hill formed a band that would forever change the landscape of reggae culture. The name was not chosen lightly. It was a statement, a declaration of identity, resistance, and spiritual defiance. Culture was more than a band. It was a mission, a movement, a voice for those who had been cast aside. Their breakthrough came swiftly, and it came like a storm. In 1977, the world was introduced to Two Sevens Clash, an album that was prophetic, poetic, and powerful. The title track, a chilling warning of impending chaos on July 7th, 1977, resonated deeply with the people of Jamaica who saw their island caught in the grip of political violence. But the song's impact reached far beyond Kingston. In London, where reggae had become the heartbeat of the disenfranchised, the album was embraced as a sacred text. It was not just music, it was a message, a warning, a call to awareness. Joseph Hill's voice was not the smooth, polished kind that one might find in pop music. It was gravel and fire, raw and unfiltered, carrying the weight of generations in every syllable. When he sang, it was as if he was pulling words from the depths of his soul, as if every lyric was a piece of himself. He did not merely sing about oppression, injustice, and spiritual enlightenment. He lived it. His music was his testimony, and the world was his congregation. Culture did not stop. They could not stop. Album after album, tour after tour, They carried the torch of reggae's revolutionary spirit across continents. Their music was embraced not only in Jamaica and the UK, but in Africa, where the deep-rooted spiritual and social themes of their songs found an immediate and powerful audience. For Hill, the connection to Africa was more than just symbolic. It was ancestral, a homecoming in spirit, if not in body. He sang of repatriation, of unity, of the strength of the African people, and they in turn embraced him as one of their own. His music was a bridge between generations, between continents, between worlds that had been separated by history, but remained connected by blood and rhythm. And yet, for all the success, the fame, the accolades, he remained grounded in his faith, his mission, his belief in Rastafari. He was never swayed by the trappings of the industry, never lost sight of why he started this journey in the first place. The message remained pure. The music remained a weapon against oppression. In 2005, he was honored with the Jamaican Reggae Walk of Fame, a recognition of the immense contribution he had made to the genre. That same year, he was awarded the Independence Award by the Jamaican Prime Minister, a symbol of the nation's gratitude for his role in spreading its culture and message across the world. But even as the awards piled up, his greatest reward was the knowledge that his music was still touching lives, still inspiring revolution, still opening minds. And then, just 1 year later, the music world was shaken by a devastating loss. On August 19th, 2006, while on tour in Berlin, Germany, Joseph Hill took his final breath. The voice that had once seemed immortal, the presence that had loomed so large, was suddenly gone. The world of reggae was plunged into mourning. Tributes poured in from across the globe. Fans, fellow musicians, political leaders, all recognized that an era had ended. But his story did not end with his death. His legacy was too powerful, too deeply ingrained in the consciousness of reggae and Rastafari to fade away. His son, Kenyatta Hill, understood that. He stepped forward, not to replace his father, because no one could, but to honor him, to carry forward the mission, to keep the fire burning. Kenyatta took the mantle of lead singer of culture, ensuring that his father's message would not be silenced. Beyond the music, beyond the message, there was the man himself. Joseph Hill was a husband, a father, a visionary. His wife, Pauline Hill, was not just his life partner, but also the road manager for culture, the anchor that kept everything together. She understood the burden he carried, understood the weight of the message he bore. Together, they built something greater than themselves, something that would outlive them both. At the time of his passing, Joseph Hill's net worth was estimated at $5 million. But his true wealth was not measured in dollars and cents. It was in the millions of people who still sing his songs, in the movements he inspired, in the message that refuses to be silenced. His voice lives on in every rhythm, in every chant of one love, in every call for justice, unity, and peace. Joseph Hill was more than a musician. He was a prophet of rhythm, a warrior of truth, a beacon of Rastafari. The question is not what happened to Joseph Hill. The real question is, how will we carry his legacy forward? Joseph Hill may have taken his final breath, but his message, it never died. His words still ignite revolutions. His music still moves nations. But now, the question is, will his legacy stand the test of time? Can reggae still carry the weight of his message? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love uncovering the real stories behind reggae's greatest legends, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the revolution isn't over yet.